Everyone thinks Hades is the villain, the evil one, the god of death who steals souls and rules a kingdom of suffering. But here is the truth that 3,000 years of mythology actually tells us. Hades never started a single war, never harmed an innocent person without cause, never cheated on his wife, never abused his power over the dead. While Zeus was impregnating mortals across Greece, while Poseidon was flooding cities, while Ares was starting wars for fun, Hades was quietly, fairly, doing the most important job in the universe, and being despised for it. Hades was one of the three sons of Cronus and Rhea, swallowed by his father as a child, rescued by Zeus, and given dominion over the underworld when the three brothers divided the universe. His name literally means the unseen one, because he wore a helmet of invisibility. In ancient Greek culture, speaking his name was considered bad luck, so people avoided saying it. They called him by euphemisms, Pluton, meaning the wealthy one, because all precious metals came from beneath the earth. He was not the god of death, that was Thanatos. Hades was the god of the dead, the administrator of the afterlife. There is a crucial difference. Death comes for you whether Hades wants it or not. Hades simply manages what happens after. The underworld Hades ruled was not a place of punishment, it was a place of order. Dead souls entered through Charon the ferryman who carried them across the river Styx, if they had a coin for payment placed by their family in their mouths before burial. They were judged by three judges, Minos, Rhadamanthus, and Iacchus, three former mortal kings renowned for their wisdom and justice. Based on how they had lived, souls went to one of several destinations: the Elysian Fields, paradise for heroes and the virtuous; the Asphodel Meadows, neutral ground for ordinary souls; Tartarus, punishment for the truly wicked; and later, the Isles of the Blessed for those who reached Elysium 3 times. Hades presided over all of this, fairly, impartially, without corruption. Compare Hades to his brothers. Zeus, who had countless affairs, manipulated mortals for entertainment, punished people for reasons of ego, and frequently showed favoritism based on personal preference. Poseidon, who dried up rivers in petty vengeance, created monsters when rejected, and tormented Odysseus for a decade. Now look at Hades. He stayed faithful to Persephone, the one serious relationship of his divine life. He did not manipulate the dead for entertainment. He did not create monsters arbitrarily. He did not abandon his post. While his brothers were using their divine power for personal pleasure and petty revenge, Hades was doing his job. Every day. For eternity. Without recognition. Without worship. Without gratitude. Here is perhaps the most tragic aspect of Hades' existence. While Zeus had thousands of temples across Greece, while Athena had the Parthenon, while Apollo had Delphi, Hades had almost no temples, almost no worship. Why? Because ancient Greeks believed that praying to Hades, thinking about Hades, even saying his name, would attract his attention, and attracting the attention of the Lord of the Dead was considered the worst possible outcome. So the god who managed everyone's afterlife, who literally determined what happened to you when you died, was never prayed to, never thanked, never worshipped. He maintained the universe's most important system in complete obscurity, and he never complained. The abduction of Persephone is the story most people know about Hades, and it's the story most people use to condemn him. But let's look at the full picture. Was the abduction wrong? By modern standards, absolutely yes. But consider what happened after. Hades gave Persephone a throne equal to his own. He gave her genuine authority over the dead. He negotiated honestly with Zeus and Demeter for her return. He didn't fight or deceive when the compromise was reached. He was faithful to Persephone for eternity, the only major Olympian god with a record of complete fidelity. And in many ancient sources, Persephone came to genuinely love her role as queen of the underworld. Hades was not a perfect husband, but compared to Zeus, he was extraordinary. The true measure of Hades' character comes from the moments when heroes entered his kingdom and asked for the impossible. Orpheus, the greatest musician who ever lived, descended to the underworld to retrieve his dead wife Eurydice. He played music so beautiful that Cerberus stopped growling, the Furies wept, and even Sisyphus paused his eternal punishment to listen. Hades, the stone-cold ruler of the dead, sat with Persephone and wept. He agreed to release Eurydice on one condition. Orpheus must not look back as they climbed to the surface. Hades gave a dead woman back to the living, not because he was forced to, because beautiful music made him feel something. The most feared god in mythology, moved to tears by a song. When Hercules descended to the underworld for his 12th labor to capture Cerberus, he did not sneak in or use trickery. He went directly to Hades and asked permission. Hades, who could have easily refused, who had every right to refuse, considered the request. Persephone interceded on Hercules' behalf, moved by his suffering and purpose. Hades agreed, with one condition. Hercules must subdue Cerberus using only his bare hands and strength. No weapons. A fair challenge. Hades kept his word when Hercules succeeded. He let Cerberus go with Hercules, then received the three-headed guardian back without complaint after Eurystheus had seen him. Hades dealt fairly even with the living who violated his domain. In all of mythology, Hades showed genuine justified anger only a handful of times. The most notable was when Sisyphus, a mortal king of exceptional cunning, cheated death itself. Twice. First by chaining Thanatos, the god of death, so no one could die. When Ares freed Thanatos and brought Sisyphus to the underworld, Sisyphus convinced Persephone to let him return to the surface to scold his wife for not giving him proper burial rites. He then simply refused to go back. Hades was furious. When Sisyphus finally died of old age, his punishment was legendary. Roll a boulder up a hill for eternity, only to watch it roll back down every time it nears the top. Not cruel without reason. But Hades' sense of cosmic justice, when violated, was absolute. Hades was also called Pluton, the wealthy one, because he ruled over all the riches beneath the earth. Every gold deposit, every silver vein, every precious gem, every mineral resource came from his domain. He was arguably the wealthiest being in the universe, yet he never flaunted it. He didn't build golden palaces on Olympus. He didn't compete with Zeus for luxury and display. His wealth stayed in the earth, available to humans who mined it, who used it to build civilizations, who traded it to create the ancient world's economy. Hades could have kept every ounce of gold for himself. Instead, it flowed upward into the human world. The most misunderstood god was also one of humanity's greatest benefactors. Modern culture has done Hades the greatest injustice. Disney's Hercules made him a scheming villain with a flaming blue hair and a used car salesman personality. Every video game, every movie, every TV show depicts him as the bad guy. But the ancient Greeks, who invented him, never saw him this way. The conflation of Hades with Satan, the Christian concept of the ruler of evil, happened gradually as Christianity spread through Greece and Rome. The underworld became hell. The ruler of the dead became the ruler of evil. And 2,000 years of that association has completely buried the original Hades, the fair, faithful, misunderstood administrator of the most important system in the universe. Interestingly, modern gaming has done more to rehabilitate Hades' true character than any scholarly work. The 2020 video game Hades by Supergiant Games depicts Hades as a complex, serious, occasionally warm father figure, strict but fair, doing an impossible job with dignity. The game won dozens of awards and introduced millions of players to a version of Hades far closer to the original Greek conception than anything Hollywood had produced. Sometimes, the most accurate mythological portrayal of a 3,000-year-old god comes from an indie video game. 3 shocking facts about Hades. 1. Hades was also associated with a plant called the narcissus, the same flower used to lure Persephone into the underworld. Ancient Greeks wore narcissus wreaths at funerals as an offering to Hades. 2. Hades had a pet, a multi-headed dog called Cerberus, but ancient accounts vary between 3 heads and 50 heads for Cerberus. The 3-headed version we know today comes from later, simplified retellings. 3. Hades was technically the king of the largest kingdom in existence, because eventually every person who ever lived ends up in his domain. He ruled more subjects than Zeus and Poseidon combined. He was the most powerful god in terms of population, and the least respected. Hades teaches us something that we desperately need to remember in a world obsessed with visibility, recognition, and praise. The most important work is often the most invisible. The most essential roles are often the least celebrated. Someone has to maintain the systems that everything else depends on. Someone has to do the unglamorous, the feared, the misunderstood work. And they have to do it with dignity, whether or not anyone is watching, whether or not anyone is grateful, whether or not anyone even says their name. Hades did that. For eternity. That is not the definition of a villain. That is the definition of a god. Now you know the truth about Hades, the most misunderstood god in all of mythology. Who should we cover next? Persephone, his queen who may have chosen to stay, or Cerberus, his loyal guardian who nobody ever talks about? Drop your vote. Follow MythosVerse. See you in the next legend.